The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the high-rise apartment in Manhattan. The kind of relentless New York downpour that blurred the city lights into streaks of gold and red, turning the world outside into a smeared watercolor painting. Madison Harper's eyes snapped open in the dim glow of the bedside lamp, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. She wasn't in the cold alleyway below the old building anymore. Bones shattered from the fall, life bleeding out on the pavement as Ethan walked away with his mistress, clutching the demolition payout like it was his birthright. No, she was here, in their luxury bedroom, the silk sheets tangled around her legs, the clock on the nightstand reading just past midnight. The night before everything changed in her previous life. The night he first proposed the fake divorce. A second chance. Rebirth. Whatever this was, divine intervention, a cruel cosmic joke, or her mind refusing to let go, it was real. She could feel the warmth of the bed, the faint scent of Ethan's cologne lingering on the pillow beside her. Her hands trembled as flashes assaulted her 10 years of marriage built on lies. Her youth wasted caring for his aging parents while he vanished abroad with Lily, the woman he'd been sleeping with for years, the adopted son, Dylan, who turned out to be their biological child. Working 3 jobs until her body broke, illnesses piling up before 40, and the end pushed from the roof for money. Rage boiled inside her, hot and sharp, but she forced it down. This time would be different. She wouldn't be the gullible wife anymore. The door creaked open, and Ethan Carter stepped in, loosening his tie. His perfect lawyer smile in place, the one that had charmed juries and clients alike at his upscale firm. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features and eyes that could shift from warm to calculating in a blink. He was the epitome of success. Harvard-educated, partner track. The man every woman envied her for marrying. But Madison knew the rot beneath. "Babe," he said softly, sliding into bed beside her, his hand brushing her arm with practiced affection. "You awake?" "The company just dropped a bombshell. They're sending me on a long-term assignment overseas Europe. Big promotion. But there's a catch. They require me to be single for the contract. Tax reasons or something corporate." He paused, gauging her reaction, his voice dripping with false regret. "It's temporary. We do a quick divorce on paper. I secure the deal. And we remarry the moment it's over. It'll give us everything we've dreamed of, a better life. More money. For us. For Dylan." Madison turned slowly, staring at his familiar face, the one she'd loved for years, in her past life. She'd believed him, signed without question, trusted the man who'd vowed to protect her. Now, every word tasted like poison. Her pulse thundered, memories of betrayal flooding back the disappearance, the silence, the murder. She wanted to scream, to claw at him, but she held back. Impulse would ruin everything. Instead, she forced a small smile, her voice steady. "Okay, Ethan, if it's for our future..." His eyes lit up, relief flashing across his features as he pulled her close. "I knew you'd understand. You're the best, Madison. We'll handle the papers tomorrow. I've got a contact at the Civil Affairs office. Easy." He kissed her forehead, oblivious, already tasting victory. As he drifted to sleep, humming contentedly, Madison lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling. This was her chance to rewrite it all. Heaven or hell had given her this gift, and she wouldn't waste it on blind trust. Ethan Carter was going to learn what real loss felt like. The next hours dragged like eternity. Madison pretended to sleep, listening as Ethan shifted restlessly. Around 3 a.m., his phone buzzed softly. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her, and padded to the bathroom, closing the door with a quiet click. Curiosity and suspicion pulled her up. She crept to the door, pressing her ear against the wood. His voice, low and excited. "Yeah, it's done." She agreed without a fight, gullible as ever. "Tomorrow we file. Then I'm gone. You, me, the kid, real family time abroad. No more pretending." A woman's laugh filtered through Lily, sultry and triumphant. "Finally!" That pathetic housewife won't know what hit her. And the money from the old house demolition in a few years. All ours. Madison's blood ran cold, then ignited. Confirmation. The plan was always betrayal. She slipped back to bed before he returned, feigning deep sleep as he crawled in, satisfied. Morning came too soon. Ethan was all energy, dressing sharply, urging her to hurry. "Let's get this over quick, babe, for us." At the Civil Affairs office in downtown Manhattan, the sterile fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, couples arguing in hushed tones around them. Ethan slid the divorce agreement across the table, pen ready. "Sign here. It's standard." Madison scanned it, her eyes narrowing at the asset division clause. Everything to him bank accounts, investments, even her pre-marriage savings. She walked away with nothing. In her past life, she'd missed it, signed blindly. Not now. "Ethan," she said coolly, pointing. "If this is fake, why do I get zero explain?" He didn't flinch, leaning in with that charming grin. "Overseas costs are high. I need the liquidity. You're staying here, no expenses. Trust me, it's temporary." His tone hardened slightly. "Just sign. Don't make this difficult." The clerk glanced over, sensing tension. Madison's mind raced. Confront now, or play along, gather more. She smiled tightly. "Fine, but we adjust it. I keep the apartment." "You take the cash." Ethan hesitated, eyes flickering panic. Greed won. The apartment was in her name originally. He'd coerced the transfer last time. This time, no. "Deal," he said quickly. "Smart compromise." They signed, the stamp falling like a gavel. Divorce official on paper. As they left, Ethan beamed. "See, easy. I'll call soon." But Madison knew he wouldn't. That night, alone in the apartment that now legally belonged solely to her, Madison poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the city pulse below. The divorce was done, but the real betrayal was just beginning again. Ethan had packed a suitcase under the guise of business trip prep, kissing her goodbye with promises of monthly allowances and quick remarriage. "Take care of Mom and Dad for me," he'd said, hugging Dylan tightly. The boy, 6 years old with Ethan's eyes but a gentle heart, waved innocently as his father left. Madison watched the door close, a cold smile creeping across her face. What Ethan didn't know, she'd already quietly transferred key assets, consulted a discreet lawyer friend from her old college days, and installed hidden cameras in the home. Small steps, no more victim. Days turned to weeks. True to past life, Ethan vanished, calls unanswered, messages ignored. His firm claimed he'd resigned for the overseas post. His parents, retired professors living in the family brownstone uptown, grew worried. "Where is he?" his mother asked over dinner one night, voice trembling. Madison comforted her, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. "He's focused on the promotion. It'll be fine." But inside, fury simmered. Then the first tragedy struck. His father collapsed during a morning walk in Central Park. Brain hemorrhage. Ambulance sirens wailed as Madison rushed to the hospital, holding her mother-in-law's hand. Doctors delivered grim news: emergency surgery, high costs. In her past life, without Ethan's support, delays had killed them both. Not this time. Madison sold jewelry quietly, dipped into hidden savings, paid everything up front, surgery successful. As his father recovered, gratitude poured from the elders. "You're our real child, Madison," his mother whispered, tears in eyes. They handed her a bank card, retirement funds. "For you. Ethan doesn't deserve you." Bonds deepened. Dylan, sensing the shifts, clung to her more. "Mom, is Dad coming back?" he'd ask. "He will when he's ready." She'd lie softly, hugging him. But one night, Dylan overheard her on the phone with a friend, whispering about suspicions. The boy didn't understand fully, but his loyalty grew fierce. Meanwhile, Madison rebuilt. She enrolled in online courses: finance, law basics, preparing for independence, a part-time job at a gallery, using her art history degree, long buried. No more housewife. But doubt crept in during quiet moments. Was this revenge making her colder when she snapped at a nosy neighbor probing about Ethan? She wondered, am I becoming like him? Manipulative, no. This was survival. Evidence mounted quietly bank transfers Ethan had attempted blocked now. Old messages recovered from cloud backups showing affairs. Clues for later. One evening, as snow dusted the city, Ethan's mother confronted Madison gently. We've decided, if he doesn't return soon, we'll remove him from the family registry. You're our daughter now? Touched, Madison nodded. They transferred the brownstone deed partially to her as safeguard. Dylan, growing wiser, asked tough questions. Why does Dad smell like perfume sometimes? Madison's heart ached. The boy wasn't hers biologically. Ethan and Lily's secret, but the love was real. In past life, he'd suffered most. Depression claiming him after her death. This time, she'd protect him. As months passed, peace settled falsely. Career picking up, family closer, Madison almost believed she could move on without full vengeance. Then, a late-night call from an unknown number. Ethan's voice, tentative. Madison, it's me. She froze, then composed. Who is this Ethan Carter is abroad? Click. He hung up, rattled. But the hook was set. Betrayal's web tightened his now. Whispers of his return for upcoming demolitions reached her through networks. He was coming back broke, desperate. His perfect life with Lily crumbling under debts and lies. Madison stared at her reflection stronger, sharper. The naive wife was dead. The woman rising unforgiving. Months blurred into a fragile rhythm of cautious hope inside the Upper West Side apartment Madison now called her own. The city outside shifting from winter gray to tentative spring green, while Ethan remained a ghost. His promises of contact evaporating like morning mist over the Hudson. She had expected the silence, remembered it from the nightmare of her previous life. Yet living through it again with eyes wide open, carved something deeper. A cold clarity that replaced blind trust with calculated resolve. Every unanswered call to his phone, every evasive response from his former firm, confirmed what she already knew. The overseas assignment was a lie, the divorce a trap, and the man she had loved was a stranger who had planned her ruin long before she signed the papers. But this time she was ready. Hidden cameras recorded empty rooms he would never return to fill. Bank alerts tracked attempts to drain joint accounts she had already severed. And a private investigator friend quietly traced digital breadcrumbs leading to Europe to Lily, to luxury apartments paid with money siphoned from family funds. Madison worked the gallery job with increasing confidence, her art history knowledge earning praise and commissions that built a private nest egg. Evenings were for Dylan homework at the kitchen table, bedtime stories, gentle answers to his questions about a father who never called. The boy sensed the fracture but clung to her fiercely, his small arms wrapping around her waist after nightmares. You're my mom forever. Right, he whispered one night. She held him tighter than necessary. Forever, sweetheart. Nothing changes that. The real turning point came on a crisp April morning when her father-in-law, Professor Emeritus Harold Carter, collapsed during his daily jog along the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. The call from a passerby sent Madison racing to Mount Sinai. Mother-in-law Eleanor, pale and trembling in the waiting room. Doctors delivered the diagnosis with grim efficiency, massive intracerebral hemorrhage, surgery required immediately, costs astronomical. In her past life, the delay had been fatal bills unpaid, Ethan unreachable, both parents lost within weeks. This time, Madison did not hesitate. She liquidated the last of her pre-marriage investments, wired funds before the anesthesia even wore off, and sat vigil through the night. Harold survived, fragile but breathing, and when Eleanor finally broke down in gratitude, the shift was irreversible. You've been more than a daughter-in-law, the older woman sobbed, clutching Madison's hand. Ethan abandoned us all. You're the one who stayed. Days later, over weak hospital tea, they made it official retirement accounts transferred. Power of attorney updated. The brownstone deed partially rewritten in her name. He doesn't deserve any of it, Harold rasped from his bed. Not after what he's done. Madison accepted with tears that were only half performance. Their trust became her armor. Yet awakening was not painless. Alone at night, she sometimes stared at the ceiling, questioning the woman she was becoming. When a former mutual friend, someone who'd always envied her marriage, probed too aggressively about Ethan's absence, Madison shut her down with a cutting precision that left the woman stammering. Later, in the shower, she pressed her forehead against the tile and whispered, "Am I turning into him? Cold? Calculating?" The fear lingered, a shadow beneath the resolve. She made mistakes, too confiding too much, too soon to a gallery colleague who repeated rumors, forcing her to backtrack and plant false trails instead. Vulnerability remained. But so did purpose. Dylan, sensing the change in her, grew protective in his childlike way. One evening, he brought home a drawing from school, the four of them, Madison, Harold, Eleanor, and himself holding hands under a bright sun, labeled, "My Real Family." She taped it to the refrigerator and felt something inside her crack open. Not weakness, but strength rooted in love rather than hate. The deepest awakening came the night an unknown number flashed on her phone. She knew before answering. Ethan's voice, thinner than she remembered, edged with uncertainty. "Madison, it's me. Things got complicated abroad. I need to know you're all okay." The lie was so transparent it almost made her laugh. She let silence stretch until he filled it nervously. "The promotion fell through. I'm coming back soon." Her response was ice. "Ethan Carter is dead to us. Don't call again." She ended the call, hands shaking not from fear, but from the power of finally speaking truth. In the mirror, her reflection looked back eyes harder, jaw set, no longer pleading. The gullible wife was buried with the old life. What Rose was a woman who understood that survival demanded ruthlessness, but love demanded boundaries. She poured a glass of wine, toasted the city lights, and whispered to the empty room, "Your move, Ethan." 5 years slipped by in a montage of rebuilt lives, Dylan thriving in private school on scholarships. Harold's academic connections secured, Madison promoted to gallery curator with a salary that afforded comfort without excess. The brownstone renovated into a warm family hub where laughter replaced waiting. The elders formally adopted her, removing Ethan from every legal document, birth certificate annotations, household registry, even social security linkages quietly severed through discreet lawyers. To the world, Ethan Carter had vanished, presumed dead or irrelevant. Madison never spoke his name aloud anymore. Peace felt earned, until the city announced the upcoming demolition and redevelopment of several historic blocks, including both the apartment she had kept and the old Carter family home upstate. Compensation packages were generous, life-changing. And right on cue, Ethan returned. He looked nothing like the polished lawyer who had left. Gaunt, eyes sunken, clothes expensive but rumpled. He appeared first at a family dinner in a midtown restaurant Madison had chosen to celebrate Dylan's excellent report card. Her new partner, Dr. Ryan Keller, a kind-hearted surgeon she'd met through hospital charity events, sat beside her, hand resting lightly on hers. The door burst open mid-dessert. "You cheating bitch," Ethan snarled, voice cracking across the room. "While I was suffering abroad, you're here playing house." Conversations died. Ryan tensed, but Harold reacted first, rising with surprising speed for a man who'd once been on death's door and cracking his cane across Ethan's shins. "My son is dead," the old professor thundered. "You're an imposter defiling his memory." Eleanor followed with a slap sharp enough to turn heads. "How dare you show your face after abandoning us?" Ethan reeled, disbelief warring with rage. "Dad, Mom, it's me." But the beating continued until restaurant security dragged him out, still shouting threats about inheritance and betrayal. Madison watched calmly, heart-pounding yet strangely detached. This was the first taste of public revenge, and it was sweet. But Ethan was desperate, diagnosed with terminal liver disease abroad. Treatments draining what money he had left, Lily pressuring him for more. He needed the demolition payout to survive. Next, he tried the upstate house, squatting with Lily among dusty furniture. Madison drove up with Ryan and 2 off-duty officers she'd hired as security consultants. Lily lunged first, claws out, screaming about homewreckers. Madison sidestepped and delivered a single open-handed slap that echoed through the old rooms. "This is my parents' house," she said quietly. "You have until tomorrow to leave." Ethan, reeking of whiskey, begged on his knees in the yard recounting their wedding day, promising change, blaming Lily, blaming stress, blaming everything but himself. For one heartbeat, Madison wavered. The man crumbling before her was a shadow of the one she'd loved, illness and regret carving hollows in his face. "I know I'm dying," he whispered. "Just let me see my son one last time." The plea almost worked. Almost. Then she remembered the push from the roof, the cold indifference as she fell. Her voice hardened. "You made your choices. Live with them." Evidence had been gathering for years: bank records of embezzled funds, messages to Lily planning abandonment, medical documents from his European doctors confirming he'd known about the child all along. She fed select pieces to a journalist contact, planting seeds. But the masterstroke came when Ethan, cornered and frantic, targeted Dylan waiting outside school gates with promises of toys and a real mom. Dylan, coached but never coerced, played along just enough. Hidden recorder in his backpack captured everything: Lily's instructions for poison, Ethan's agreement. Their greed laid bare. When they broke into the apartment expecting bodies, police were waiting. The trap closed perfectly. At the station, through glass. Ethan wept. "It was supposed to be fake, Madison. How did you turn my own parents against me?" She leaned close to the microphone. "You turned them against you the day you walked away. This isn't revenge. Ethan, it's consequence." Dylan stood beside her, small hand in hers. "You're not my dad," the boy said clearly. "You stopped being family when you hurt my mom." Ethan shattered then, screams echoing down corridors as reality finally crushed him. In court, the case was airtight: attempted murder, fraud, years of documented abandonment. Sentencing day. Ethan lunged at Lily in a final act of rage and self-destruction, forcing guards to fire. He died on the courtroom floor, eyes still fixed on Madison through the chaos. She felt nothing but a vast, quiet emptiness. Revenge was complete, justice served, yet victory tasted like ash. Ryan held her that night as she finally cried, not for the man Ethan had been, but for the woman she might have remained if fate hadn't forced her to become steel. Outside, New York kept moving, indifferent and alive. Inside, Madison Harper breathed free for the first time in 2 lifetimes. The trial unfolded in a packed Manhattan courthouse under harsh fluorescent lights that made every face look guilty. Reporters crammed shoulder to shoulder in the back rows, while cameras flashed outside on Center Street whenever anyone emerged. Ethan and Lily sat separately at the defense table, he in an ill-fitting suit that hung from his thinned frame, she defiant in heavy makeup that could not hide the circles under her eyes. The charges were brutal attempted murder by poisoning, conspiracy, fraud spanning years, aggravated abandonment. Prosecutors laid out the evidence with clinical precision: bank records showing systematic draining of family accounts, recovered messages between the defendants, planning the fake divorce as permanent escape. Medical reports confirming the powder Dylan had delivered was a lethal dose of a restricted heart medication. And most damning of all, the crystal-clear audio from the boy's backpack capturing every word of their plot. Madison sat in the front row between Harold and Eleanor, Ryan's steady hand on her knee. Dylan safely at school under private security she now quietly afforded. She did not gloat. The victory felt heavier than expected. When the recording played Lily's syrupy voice instructing a child to murder his own family, the gallery gasped. Ethan stared at the floor, shoulders shaking. Lily glared at Madison as if looks could kill. Testimony days blurred into AICs. Harold took the stand first, voice steady despite age, recounting the hospital crisis Ethan had ignored, the surgeries paid by the woman he had tried to erase. Eleanor followed, tears falling as she described transferring everything to Madison out of love, not coercion. Then Dylan, only 11 now but composed beyond his years, spoke briefly via video link for his protection. "They told me to put powder in the drinks," he said clearly. "I pretended to agree because Mom taught me right from wrong. She's my real family." The courtroom was silent except for Ethan's broken sob. Madison herself testified last, calm and factual, refusing to embellish. She detailed the fake divorce, the abandonment, the years of caregiving alone, ending with the push from the roof in her memory, a near miss, this time prevented by foresight. When defense counsel tried to paint her as vindictive, she met his eyes. "I protected my family. That's not vengeance, that's responsibility." The jury deliberated less than 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Ethan received 15 years, Lily 18 with no parole recommendation due to lack of remorse. As the sentence was read, Ethan lunged across the aisle in a final spasm of rage, teeth sinking into Lily's throat before guards could intervene. Blood sprayed the table. Shots rang out. He slumped dead on the polished floor, eyes still fixed on Madison accusation. Regret, hatred all mingled. Chaos erupted, but she remained seated, pulse steady. Karma had collected its debt in full view of the world. Media exploded. Headlines screamed across tabloids and networks. Prominent lawyer's deadly betrayal. Fake divorce turns fatal. Child hero exposes parents' poison plot. Social media dissected every angle. Some painted Madison a mastermind. Others a victim turned vigilante. A few even sympathized with Ethan's desperation. She expected backlash and got it anonymous messages calling her monster. Protests from men's rights groups outside the gallery. Old acquaintances distancing themselves. For weeks, she walked through a storm of judgment, second-guessing every calculated step. Had she gone too far? Dylan woke from nightmares. Therapy sessions increased. Ryan held her through sleepless nights when regret whispered that revenge had cost pieces of her soul no court could restore. But then, letters began arriving, dozens. Then hundreds from women across the country sharing stories of similar betrayals. Abandoned after years of sacrifice. Gaslit by partners who took everything. Many thanked her for giving them courage to leave, to fight legally, to protect their children. A nonprofit approached her to speak at fundraisers for domestic abuse survivors. She accepted one engagement, voice steady under bright lights. Strength isn't becoming what hurt you. It's choosing, every day, not to let it define you. Donations poured in. The gallery hosted a benefit exhibition. Sales funded shelters. Public opinion shifted. Madison Harper became a quiet symbol not of vengeance, but of survival with dignity. She paid the price in scars, trust harder to give, sleep lighter, moments staring at Dylan wondering if the darkness she unleashed had touched him too deeply. Yet standing on that stage, seeing women in the audience nod through tears, she understood the broader justice. One life's ruin had illuminated paths for many. Karma was not just Ethan's grave, it was the ripple of lives reclaimed. Spring arrived softly 2 years after the trial. Cherry blossoms drifting along the Brooklyn Promenade, where Madison now walked most evenings. The skyline across the river, a constellation of possibility rather than reminder of past pain. The settlement from the demolitions had been substantial, both properties yielding millions after legal battles she fought cleanly and won outright. She invested wisely a trust for Dylan's future, expansions for the gallery that now bore her name in small, elegant letters above the door. Generous endowments to the nonprofit she quietly chaired. Money brought security, but not peace. That came slower, earned in small daily choices. Therapy helped hers and Dylan's unpacking trauma without letting it define them. Harold and Eleanor thrived in a sunlit assisted living community upstate. Visited often, their pride in her a constant warmth. Ryan remained a steady presence, never pushing, content to build at her pace. He proposed on a quiet rooftop one summer night. Ring simple. Words honest. "I don't need to fix you, Madison. I just want to walk beside you." She said yes, not because she needed saving, but because she finally believed she deserved partnership without surrender. The wedding was small, intimate ceremony in the gallery surrounded by art she loved. Dylan as ring-bearer beaming in a tiny tux. Harold walking her down the aisle while Eleanor dabbed tears. No grand gestures, no media. She had learned the value of privacy. Vows were personal, Ryan promising patience, Madison promising openness. They honeymooned in Italy, wandering Florence galleries hand in hand. Dylan tagging along for the first half before flying back to camp with grandparents. In quiet moments overlooking the Arno, she felt the last knots loosen past life, fading like an old photograph left too long in sun. Back home, life settled into a rhythm both ordinary and profound. Mornings with coffee on the brownstone balcony, Ryan had helped renovate. School runs and soccer practices. Gallery openings where her curation drew acclaim. Non-profit board meetings that actually changed policies. Dylan grew tall and kind, excelling in school. Quick to call out injustice among friends, but quicker to forgive small hurts. He never asked about Ethan again. The space once occupied by a ghost, now filled with Ryan's steady, fathering teaching bike tricks in Central Park. Late-night talks about everything and nothing. Some nights, Madison still woke suddenly, heart racing from dreams of falling. But Ryan's arm across her waist grounded her back to now. Scars remained. She checked locks twice, vetted new people carefully, felt a pang at every abandoned wife story in the news. Yet joy crept in steadily. Dylan's laughter echoing through rooms once silent with waiting. Harold's terrible jokes at Sunday dinners. Eleanor's proud texts about Madison's latest press mention. Ryan's quiet, "I love you" over morning coffee. One autumn afternoon in the park, watching Dylan chase leaves with friends. Ryan asked softly if she ever regretted the path she took. She considered, wind tugging her hair. "I regret the necessity," she said finally. "Not the choice. It made me who I am, stronger, wiser, careful with my heart, but not closed to it." He nodded, understanding without need for more. Happiness, she discovered, was not the absence of pain, but the presence of meaning built atop it. Years later, on the 10th anniversary of her second chance, Madison stood alone on the promenade at dusk, city lights flickering alive across the water. A letter had arrived that morning, forwarded from prison. Lily's shaky handwriting begging forgiveness, claiming childhood abuse had twisted her into cruelty. Madison read it once, felt the old flicker of pity, then let the wind carry it into the river. Some stories ended in redemption, others simply ended. Hers continued forward. She was independent, loved, purposeful mother, wife, daughter, advocate, survivor. The naive woman who had once trusted blindly was gone, but the woman who remained was whole. Behind her, Ryan called that dinner was ready, Dylan's voice shouting for her to hurry. Madison smiled, turned from the railing, and walked toward the light spilling from their home. The past had taken everything once. This time, she had chosen what to keep and what to build anew.